James Gunn's newest script, The Belko Experiment, blasts its way onto screens this weekend. Should you check it out? We'll tell you right now on Screen Junkies News.
We are not going to entertain the option of killing people.
Hi, I'm Dan Merle, here with your review for The Belko Experiment, written by Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn and directed by Greg McLean, who you might know from Wolf Creek and a few other movies. Let's start right off the bat. The Belko Experiment is a brutal film. If you like blood, if you like gore, if you like violence, you will enjoy this movie. It is almost unrelenting wall-to-wall blood and violence. The basic sketch of the story is kind of like Battle Royale meets The Purge meets Office Space. The Belko Experiment revolves around dozens of co-workers who are suddenly locked in their high-tech experimental office building and told that they must turn on one another and kill each other, or else they'll all be randomly killed. This is a very difficult movie to review because this is definitely not one that's aimed at general audiences. I don't want to pull any punches here. This movie is mean, this movie is nasty, it is brutal, and it is unrelenting. If you're looking for a movie that gives some kind of a ray of hope, any kind of movie that has a light at the end of the tunnel, or redeems any of the brutal actions that its characters take over the runtime, this is not the movie for you. The Belko Experiment isn't a movie that does hyper-violence in order to relay at the end how hyper-violence isn't the way to go at the end. This isn't a movie that has a message against what you've just seen. This is a movie that revels in the violence. It revels in finding new ways for characters to die. It revels in finding new ways for its characters to defile themselves and others. This is not a movie for everyone. I have very mixed feelings about this film because I did find this movie to be a very effective horror thriller. There are definitely some effective scares. There are some effective character moments. There are characters in this movie that are so awful, but so well acted that you don't know how to feel about them. Tony Goldwyn in particular plays a CEO who makes some horrific choices toward the middle of this movie that are so hard to define, so hard to reconcile with any kind of decency or common sense or goodwill that any human being holds in their heart. And that's kind of where I find myself with this entire movie. If somebody asked me if they should go see The Belko Experiment, I feel like I'd have to ask them 7 or 8 different follow-up questions. What kind of mood are you in today? Do you like violence? Do you get sick easily? There's so many things that you have to take into account when deciding whether or not someone should go see this movie. I do think that some of the violence in this movie is gratuitous. I do think that the movie knows it's gratuitous and actually enjoys that. This is a movie that likes to push the audience to its limits and then beyond. There are several times in this movie where characters are contemplating horrible actions, or when the story takes characters to certain places that other movies would pull back from because it would be too dark, it would be too grisly, it would be too violent, it'd be to the point of no return. The Belko Experiment does not do this. This movie shows you in an almost gleeful manner the ways that its characters mistreat each other. When people ask me if I liked The Belko Experiment, I also have kind of a hard time answering that question. Did I enjoy watching this movie? Not particularly, because it is so brutal. And I'm not somebody with a weak stomach. This movie is just one that is not afraid of its brutality. It embraces it, and it revels in it. This movie falls squarely into the genre of what I call a midnight movie. This is an audience movie. This is a movie that's meant to build up a crowd at a film festival or at a small cinema on a Friday night at midnight, to get a group of people in there to jump and laugh and scream and go, ugh, and just recoil at the horror of what's happening on screen. And there are plenty of corners in the movie universe for these kinds of movies. These kinds of movies that are designed for the audience to kind of cringe at, for the audience to draw back from because they are so violently brutal. This is a movie that wants to shock you, and to me, succeeded in shocking me. So The Belko Experiment is a movie, when I'm making a recommendation, that comes with a lot of caveats. I cannot recommend this movie for everyone. I can't tell you right now that you should go see this movie. I do think that you need to decide how comfortable you are with violence, how comfortable you are with brutality, the pessimistic attitude that this movie displays towards human nature and humans themselves, and decide if that's something you think that you would enjoy. This is a very niche movie, and I can see people loving it and hating it in equal regards, and to be honest, I agree with both sides. So those are my thoughts on The Belko Experiment. Did you see it this weekend? What did you think? Did it go too far, or is this the kind of hyper-violence that you enjoy? Let us know in the comments below. Of course, we always want to know what you're thinking. And don't forget to click right here on Screen Junkies News. We always have the latest reviews and news stories for you to enjoy. Thanks for watching this review of The Belko Experiment. Till next time, I'm Dan Merle.